Welcome out there. My name is Laolu Akonde and this is Inside Sources. And here is my take for today, entitled The Challenge of Corrosive Corruption Part 2. In the last 1 week, Nigerians have watched a melodrama that even Nollywood could not deliver. For reasons best known to him, the immediate past governor of Kogi State, Alhaji Yahaya Bello, is trying to avoid answering questions from investigators regarding corruption allegations leveled against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission. And having been declared wanted, he refused to turn himself in to the authorities for days. In court this week, his lawyer said he is afraid of an arrest. It turns out that unknown to many people, besides the several other billions which Bello is alleged to have stolen, the EFCC has also secured a refund of over $700,000 paid in by his nephew, Ali Bello, who is the current chief of staff to the governor of Kogi State. He paid the money to the American International School in Abuja as prepaid advanced school fees for both of their children to cover several years. And we are told that the rules in the school is that you don't pay more than 2 years max in advance. But the EFCC, it is believed, is alleging that the Bello advance prepaid payment is first of all a proceed of crime, and secondly, that the payment being in excess of the current school fees of the children is a form of money laundering. When the EFCC interrogated the head of the American school, Mr. Greg Hughes, and other officials of the American International School Abuja, the school refunded the money, that is the $700,000, which had removed the current school fees of the children. But the question is, why did the American International School Abuja collect excess funds from the Bellos beyond the regular fees in the first instance? Since according to their own laws, they shouldn't take more than 2 years. That's the big question. More befuddling, however, last week, Governor Usman Ododo allegedly whisked his predecessor, Yahaya Bello, away to prevent the EFCC from arresting him in Abuja. Both of them, their conduct is a big shame on all of us as a people and a country. Why? Because the world is watching. A former state governor is running away from the hands of the law and is being aided by a sitting governor. We have a former governor behaving like a fugitive. But specifically, why is Bello afraid of arrest? There have been several governors who have had to undergo EFCC investigation and in many instances submitted themselves freely for arrest. For instance, former Governor Fayose, he actually dramatically showed up at the EFCC soon after his tenure. And he is even from an opposition party. But now Yahaya Bello, who is a member of a ruling party, by his own action, running away from law, with this public prank, may have damaged his reputation very badly. On the contrary, the EFCC operatives in this case, unlike what happened during the Rocha's Okorocha incident, they have exercised restraint by not destroying property to effect the arrest. And that's a testament to the maturity of the new leadership of the EFCC. We must commend that leadership. We must also commend the resolve with which the new chairman of the EFCC is pursuing some of these important corruption allegations. The corrosion of corruption is bad for us as a country and as a people. And when we find those who are trying to stop it, we owe it to ourselves to applaud them. So good job, Mr. Olukayede. As for Alhaji Yahaya Bello, you can still redeem yourself, Excellency. If you show up and submit yourself to the EFCC, after all, this is a playable offense. All told, like we said last week, wherever and whenever we see any appearance of corruption, it is up to us as a people to not only frown against it, but to ensure that due process takes its effect and that the suspects have their day in court. And when corruption is established, there must be consequences. The interest of Nigerians is larger than any other interest. And there you have my take for the week. Today on the program, we focus on the issue of press freedom. Sometimes last month, the Defense Intelligence Agency and arm of our military forces abducted a seasoned Nigerian journalist and kept him for 14 days in an underground cell, chained hand and foot. Today, Inside Sources is hosting Mr. Segun Olatunji, formerly of The Punch, and now the general editor of Fox News, which did the story for which he suffered detention for 2 weeks. What the DIA has done is an attack on our fundamental human rights as journalists. And so today, the journalist himself, Mr. Olatunji, is telling us the story in this TV exclusive. We also have a second segment, which is with one of the youngest presidential aspirants in the last 2 general elections, Adamu Garba II. And Inside Sources will be right back. Today I have a guest, a journalist who had suffered some harassment from military authorities. His name is Mr. Segun Olatunji. He's the general editor of Fox News Online. Mr. Olatunji, you are welcome to Inside Sources.
It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. Now, I recollect that a couple months ago, you were picked up by a military agency in this country and detained for about 14 days.
Yes.
Can you please explain to our audience what happened?
Yes. My abduction saga, began on March 15th. It was on a Friday. At about some few minutes past 6 p.m., I had just finished watching a program, Journalist Hangout, on TVC, along with my 7-year-old son. And then suddenly, I just saw some armed men, burst into my living room. And behind them, I saw my wife and my 14-month-old baby, both of them were crying. And then I asked her, what happened? As I was asking her, immediately, they came in, the man leading them, immediately grabbed my 2 phones on the table, on the center table, immediately grabbed the 2 phones. And I asked my wife, who are these people? Then she said, they came to arrest her in her shop, that they had seized her phone. Then I asked the man, who are you? Can I know you? The man said, no, that we are from the military and we are here to arrest you. I said, okay. I was just wearing my boxer shorts. So I said, okay, could you let me just go into the room and, pick up my trousers and shirt? He said, okay. As I made to enter the room, some of the armed men also, went to the room with me. So I picked my shirt and my trousers and then I came out. And
how many of them altogether were around?
Well, I could not immediately, ascertain the number of them, of those of them that came into my living room. But by the time we got to the ground floor inside the compound, I saw many others, armed men, in different positions. Then by the time we got outside, I saw many more in about 3 vans, 3 military vehicles, and 3, power bikes. Yes. So I saw, so altogether, there were more than 20.
More than 20 people.
Yes. And, and it was a combination of, different formations. You had soldiers, that's the army, from the army. Okay. You had Air Force personnel. You had DIA personnel, strike force, and some others I could not identify. They were in mufti.
Interesting.
Yes.
So what did they say to you?
Well, at that point, they didn't say anything. I just, they just told me that I should come along with them. And when we got outside, immediately they bundled me into one of the vehicles. And then my wife was even trying to ask them, where are you taking him to? They didn't even ask her. They just shunned her, and we drove off. But before then, my wife, when she was arrested, there was a woman who was coming from school with her 2 children. Arrested? Yes, in her shop. When she was arrested in her shop,
Oh, they had arrested your wife?
They arrested her.
Where was her shop? Was it in the same location with your residence?
Not too far. Not too far from my residence.
Interesting.
Yes.
So at what point Did they tell you anything that they think you was responsible for this action?
What? When they took me, at first I thought they were taking me to the DMI in Apapa.
Okay.
But when we got to PWD, where you have the Air Force base, they, made a detour and entered the Air Force base and then drove straight to in front of the office of National Air Defense Corps.
Mm.
Yes, which is beside the hangar of the Nigerian Air Force.
Right.
So they parked there and then they held me for over 4 hours.
Mm.
We were there. Then we got there, they handcuffed me. They handcuffed me immediately, we got there, and then we were waiting. I didn't know that we were waiting for a military aircraft from Abuja to come and pick me up. So by the time the aircraft came, it was already dark.
Okay.
So
at what time was the initial arrest in the house?
that was past 6 p.m.
When they arrested you?
Yes,
Okay.
past 6 p.m.
So several hours
Yes,
after
yes,
now.
about 4 hours after, it was already dark by the time
Probably 9:10.
So immediately the aircraft came. One of them just came to me, just seized my glasses, and then pulled a blind over my head. And then they dragged me and straight into the aircraft.
When you said drag, what did you mean? They didn't let you walk by yourself, or?
I was already blindfolded, so there was no way I could see. So they were just, pulling me,
Right,
oh yeah,
Makes sense.
So they asked me, oh yeah, bend down, bend your head, bend. Oh yeah, lift your leg. Then they put me inside the aircraft, and then it took off. I was still, handcuffed and blindfolded, and the aircraft took off. And after a while, we landed in Abuja. And when we landed, I was still blindfolded, and they threw me into another vehicle, which drove me to their office, with more soldiers. And when we got there, the colonel who led the team now handed me over to the officer in charge on duty there, who immediately, stripped me of all my clothes. I was stripped of my boxer shorts, and then now added leg chains. Added leg chains, and then now dragged me into the underground cell. The place was in total darkness when we got there. So he dragged me to the underground cell, and then they threw me in the cell.
Were there other people in the cell?
Yes, in fact, when I got there, I at first when they were pulling me in there, I was hearing people shouting. I thought maybe they were doing some other things, But later I got to know that they were doing a kind of a vigil. Those guys have been there for more than 2 months.
So they were praying.
Yes. And so I had to join them also throughout the period I was there. We were having vigils every day, and prayers at, the different hours. Yes.
So at what point did they start to interrogate you?
Yes. After they, put me in the cell that Friday night.
Right.
After some few minutes, one of them came. There was no lights there. One of them came and said that I was still laughing. I said, how? He now said, okay, give me your right hand. I gave him. He tightened the cuff on my right hand, and then tightened the one also on my left leg, on my right leg. And then I was groaning because, the iron was cutting into my skin. So I started groaning, and I was left in that state until Monday morning.
Wow. What day of the week was the arrest?
I was picked up on a Friday.
You were left in that condition up till Monday.
Up till Monday.
So Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, Monday.
Yes, I was in that state, So until Monday when they came, and then they now loosened it. They loosened it. In fact, by the time they loosened it, the right part of my body was becoming numb. And up to this moment, this sand, my right hand, the back here is still numb. I can't really feel, it's as if there's no blood here. And then my right leg too.
Wow.
I've been treating it, but then, it's growing gradually.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah. So to get back to the question.
Yes.
So at what point did they now?
Yes. So after they losing the chains,
Right.
then they now took me to after a while, they now took me for interrogation. I was blindfolded again. And
You were blindfolded during the interrogation.
Yeah, no. The point is this. You are only allowed, not to wear a blindfold only when you are inside the cell.
Okay. Okay.
The moment you are, being taken out, you are blindfolded immediately.
Interesting.
In fact, they will ask you to bring your head from the cell, and then they will blindfold you immediately, so that you cannot see anywhere inside their office. You don't even know where they are taking you to.
Right.
But you know that they're taking you up, because they will ask you, lift your leg. You are climbing some stairs up. And then they will only remove it when you get to the front of the person who is going to question you.
So what did they say when they started to question you?
Yes. When it took me, about 3 of them, they took me before 3 of the interrogators or investigators. When I got to them, they first told me that we carried a story about the chief of defense intelligence. That's their boss.
Okay.
That we were abusing, the man. I said, that story was a general story.
What do you mean by general story?
It was a story carried by others.
Okay, what was the story about?
The story was about some lawyers, accusing the chief of defense intelligence of personalizing his office.
Okay.
Yes, that was the story.
And other media houses also published it?
Of course.
Okay, go ahead.
So I said, well, that was a general story. It wasn't an exclusive story. And then a group of lawyers spoke. And ours is to report.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we did. They said, no, you were abusing. I said, no. You can't say that here in this case. Then they said, okay, that's fine. They now left that. They now came to the crux of the matter, which was a story we carried in January.
Okay.
About the chief of staff to the president.
Okay.
It's a story we got, and we have our sources. They were now insisting. In fact, they were not concerned about the veracity of the story. That was not their concern.
What was their concern?
Their major concern was, the sources. They wanted to know the sources.
How did you know that they were not concerned about the veracity?
No, because of what they asked me. They never said the story was not true.
Okay.
They were just asking me, you must tell us the sources of your stories. Who do you have in the presidency? Who are your sources there? So, I told you they had seized my phones that first day when they arrested me.
Okay.
So my phones were with them until I was released. So by that Monday, they had ransacked my phones, so they were able to now, they were able to now pick on somebody they believe, was one of the sources, Did
they try to arrest that person also?
I'm sure they must have tried to.
You are not certain up to now.
I'm not.
You don't know whether they've...
honestly, I don't know. I don't even know his whereabouts now.
But you suspect that...
Yes.
Okay,
I,
go ahead.
I think it's possible, maybe they have arrested him. I don't know.
Okay, so how did the interrogation go?
Well, they were concerned about the sources. They wanted me to... They asked me. They said, well, we know one of them already. From your phones, we have seen one of them. And, that now tell us the others. I said, well, I cannot tell you. I don't have. I have nothing to tell you regarding that. They now said, okay, since you don't want to do that, then you'll be with us for 6 months. We're going to keep you here for 6 months.
Wow.
I said, well, it's okay. Later, they now asked me to write a statement, which they practically dictated to me.
You should write?
Yes. That I should write that the person they found on my phone, that it was the sources, it was one of my sources, And
so you are compelled to do that?
Yes. Yes.
So you wrote it by yourself? They were dictating to you and you were writing?
What I should write, You
didn't protest that you're not going to do that if that is not the truth?
Well, there was something I could do because under that circumstance, I was just there all alone. At that point, not many people had known that I was, arrested by this, and not many people even knew. No, in fact, nobody even knew they were the ones who arrested me.
Did they read your rights to you under the, that even if you are properly arrested, you have a right to counsel and all of that?
They never did that. Never did that.
Okay, so go ahead. So the interrogation. So how the interrogation ended?
Yes. After I'd written the statement, they still asked me, tell us, your sources. They were concerned about that. They were more concerned about, tell us the sources now. Tell us. If you tell us, we will allow you to go. I said, no, I don't have anything more to tell you. At least you said you have found somebody and you have asked me to put his name there. You have done that. So They got angry and said, okay, now since you're not going to tell us that, they now called the man who brought me.
Yeah.
That, oh yeah, come and take him back. That one immediately, put the blindfold again and then dragged me back. And then they dumped me in the cell.
So this was happening on the Monday?
On the Monday, yes.
Okay. So what happened next?
Yes, then on Tuesday, that's the next day, they now asked them to bring me again.
Okay.
Were
you being interrogated by the same set of people?
The same set of people.
Do you know them?
Yes, if I see them, I will know.
Okay.
I will know.
But you couldn't tell their names?
No.
They weren't wearing
because in their office, you won't find anything. Nothing is written there. Nothing.
And they weren't wearing their uniform that we normally carry?
No uniform. Nothing. You won't see anything. You won't see anything.
You won't see anything.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they are intelligence people.
Mm-hmm.
So you won't even see anything. Nothing is written there. Nobody's name is on the table. Nothing. You won't even see the name of the agency inside their office. So you won't know.
Right.
So
what did they do the next day?
So the next day they asked them to bring me again. When they brought me to them, they still asked me, you haven't told us your sources. We need to know who are the people you have in the villa giving you all this information. We know you have been writing not only these stories, this particular story, you have been writing some other stories. Let us know. If you let us know, we'll allow you to go. If you let us know, in fact, they told me, if you let us know, within 48 hours, we will let you go. I said, well, I don't have anything to tell you. I don't have anything more to tell you. You made me to write a statement yesterday. I think that should be enough for you.
So, yeah. So
then they said, this man, you are not serious. You're going to stay long here. You stay 6 months here. We'll dump you in the cell. You'll be there for 6 months. Nobody will talk to you. Then they asked the man to take me back. And then he took me back. And that was all. So
they now left you there for the rest of the...
Until that March 28 or so.
So do you remember what date were you detained? Were you arrested?
That was in March 15th.
March 15th. And you were there up till when?
Up till, I think I was released on March 28 or so.
28, okay. All right. So what was the condition, how do you describe the conditions of your detention, generally?
Well, it was...
Did you suffer any kind of torture? Beyond what
the point is that no, it's not severe. No. There was nothing like what I would call body contact. No.
Okay.
Nobody hit me. Nobody, But the psychological, torture alone.
Yeah.
Some of them, they will threaten you. Subtle and open threats. Telling me.
And when you flew from Lagos to Abuja, when you got inside the aircraft, did they remove the hood?
They didn't.
So
and I was also handcuffed all through the journey. They didn't.
So how about your feeding when you were there?
Well, they will bring some kind of food, like sometimes they will give us 3 slices of bread.
Okay.
3 slices of bread.
Breakfast.
Yes, for breakfast.
Bread
and
with
then
what?
Those who will take tea will take, me, I never took their tea. I refused and they got angry. And their beans, I said, no, I won't take those 2 things. I will not, So
you were living on bread?
Yes, they'll give me 3 slices. Then I will go into the toilet to go and drink water with my bare hands, directly from the tap. Yes.
So what else did they serve you besides bread? What about lunch?
They also served us.
Did you eat twice a day or 3 times a day?
No, they were bringing 3 times.
So they will bring bread and what?
Then sometimes they will bring, I don't know whether to call it jollof rice or concussion now that students eat, Then some other times they will bring, a solid, maybe a bar or sebo or something. But the point is that this food they bring, they are so small that, they cannot satisfy even a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Now, but generally, how did the whole saga make you feel?
Well, it was, the experience was, chilling, terrifying, because, I've never had it so, so bad with security agencies. I've had some brushes with them in the past. When I was in Kaduna for Punch, and when I was in Abeokuta, but I didn't take it. It wasn't this, so so sad, so bad. Because in this case now, nobody knew where I was. Anything could have happened. If they had wanted, in fact, they told me if they had wanted, they could have killed me. And then nobody would know anything. And you could see that from the attitude, because from what I learned, they kept denying until maybe March 27th or so, when the IPI came out pointedly and told them, you're having this man in your custody. He's there. You have to release him. And then the NSA and the Minister of Information, intervened. Up to that moment, they denied. And so within that period, they could have done anything to me. And then, in fact, they told me, yes, that they could have done anything. They could have killed me. And nobody will know.
That's true. Now, so regarding the story, you said they did not doubt the veracity.
They never asked me anything about that.
So clearly, you guys you are insisting on your story.
Of course, we stand by it.
They didn't even question.
We still stand by it.
They didn't question the veracity.
No.
They were only interested in
the sources.
Now, how will you describe what has happened next? Because the MPO, BONNUJ, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Nigerian Press Organization, Nigerian Institute of Journalism, Nigerian Institute of Journalists, Nigerian Guild of Editors, and IPI, International Press Institute. All of them have spoken about this matter.
Yes.
How does that make you feel? And what has happened to you since after your release?
Well, I want to thank all of these bodies, because the solidarity they have displayed in my case, is overwhelming, to me, because I never expected that, all of them will rise, to this occasion. They have really, really tried. And I'm happy the steps they have taken. Yes, I'm happy about that.
As the DIA, have they gotten in touch with you since your release?
No. And I don't think they will ever do that.
Okay. And then the day they released you on March 28th, how did they go?
Well, it was another thing. Honestly, it was another thing.
Can you summarize it?
It was a kind of another gangsteric, operation, my release. Because when they came to me, I think very early on March 28th, that should be about past 12 midnight of March 27th, they just came to me. I just saw them, they came to me and said, who do you know in Abuja that can guarantee your release? I said, I quickly mentioned my friend, Yomi Odunuga.
Okay.
They now said, okay, do you have his...
Yomi Odunuga used to be with The Nation.
He's still there.
Yeah.
He's still there. I think he's... yes. They said, do you have him on your phone? I said, yes. They quickly ran and brought my phone. When they opened my phone, they said, is this the name? I couldn't see. I said, well, there's no way I will see, because they took my glasses that March 15th.
So they denied you of your glasses?
Yes, they took my glasses
from the time you were arrested?
Yes.
And you never had...
Yes. They only brought it to me when they asked me to write the statement.
Did you let them know that you use your glasses for purposes of...
I told them. Okay. Because when they asked me to write the statement, I told them, well, you have to bring my glasses. Then they went and brought it. Okay. Immediately I finished, they took it back.
Even the day they were going to release you?
The day they were going to release me, that was when they now give it back to me.
Okay.
It was at that point, at that moment.
They now got it back.
So when they brought my glasses, I said, okay, this is his name. They now said, okay. They now left and went away. So I think they now went... What
time of the day was this?
There's no way you could know the time.
Okay.
Because when you are there, you don't know daytime, you don't know anything, Everywhere is dark, and then... So I think they now went and called him. They went and called my friend. That should be maybe before 4 a.m. or so. They called him and he picked, and they now told him, how could they now told him, go to in front of ECOWAS Secretariat and wait for us there now to receive your friend. My friend was afraid. He said, how can I come out at this time of the day? It's still too early.
Is it like 4 a.m.?
I'm not sure it's even up to 4 a.m.
Okay.
So he told them, it's still too early. He cannot come there at this time of the day, of the night. No. He can't come. He won't come until, 9 a.m. They got angry and said, okay, they now cut him off. So after a while, they now called him back. They now said, okay. So he said, 9 a.m. he will be there.
Okay.
So Meanwhile, they had come to me earlier. They brought my clothes.
Okay.
You know, they brought my clothes to my cell and said I should remove the cell because they have this uniform that they wear. So they asked me to remove it and then, you know, put on my own clothing and all that. So when my friend said 9 a.m., they now said, okay, they should return me to the cell. Then they returned me to the cell. They say blindfolded me, returned me to the cell, you know. So we now waited. So when it was 9 a.m., my friend now called them that he was ready, that he was already there. So they now took me again. It was at that point that they now took me and then, you know, took me into a van, still blindfolded.
Okay.
You know, took me into their van.
They took you to a van? Where were they driving you to?
I didn't know.
Oh, they didn't bring the people that were going to receive.
They didn't ask them to come to the office. No. They did not do that.
So where were you?
That's why I described the thing as gangsteric, because, you know, when they now took me into their van, they started driving. The driving was so rough, you know. So after a while, they now called my friend. Are you at the aircraft sector? He said yes. They now said no. Leave that place. Now go in front of the Catholic church. My friend now said okay. He now went. When he got there, he called. When he called, they now said no. Now drive towards DSS quarters. My friend now started driving towards that place. By the time he got there, he now called, said that he was there.
All of those are in Asokoro.
Yes, they now said, no, leave that place. Now drive towards a particular road. I don't know that road. You know, my friend now said, okay. They described the road to him. He now said, okay. Before he got to that road, they now called him again and said, no, now come towards a particular bridge. By then, we had got to that bridge. They had stopped under the bridge.
Okay.
They had stopped. I was say blindfolded, they had stopped, you know. So my friend had described his car that was coming in, you know, to them. So when they saw that the car was coming behind us, they now called him and said, is that your car? He now said, yes. He now said, okay, park far away.
Okay.
Then, you know, alight and then you see us. You see the vehicle, you know, they now described the vehicle. Then, so immediately my friend parked. He now came with the NG Secretary General.
The NG.
NG.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nigerian Secretary General, yes. He now came with him. So as they were coming, approaching us, it was at that moment that they now removed the blindfold from my head. And that will be the first time in 14 days that I will see sunlight.
Wow.
They quickly removed it. They didn't want them to see that I was being blindfolded. So they quickly removed it. Then, you know, when they came, they now said, okay, you have to sign a bail bond, you know.
Who signed the bail bond?
My friend, Yomi Oduniga. You know, the document they gave him did not have anything, no letterhead, nothing. You know, it didn't show whether it's a DIA or whether it's, you know,
didn't say the name
DMI or whatever. Just, you know, so they just gave him that I should sign that. The condition is that, you know, whenever they need me in court, they will have to produce me. He said, there's no problem. He signed.
Which court being military, which court did they have in mind?
I don't know. I don't know.
You know,
meanwhile, before they, you know, took me in the van, before they took me away from their office, they had asked me to now write under that statement. And they now asked me to now write an apology to the chief of staff to the president, Bajabe Amila, that, you know, that I'm sorry for writing the story and that I will no longer be a terrorist, because they also accused me of terrorism.
At what point?
Well,
at what point did they accuse you of terrorism?
No, that first day they took me to
the interrogation.
They said I was engaged in terrorism.
So you wrote an apology.
They asked me to now write an apology under, you know, that statement. They dictated what I would write.
Okay.
And then I wrote.
And then you signed it.
I signed. Then they took my photographs, you know, the front view.
Did you make it clear to them when you were writing those things that it was against your will?
What? I didn't really say that expressly.
But it was.
But they knew.
No, I'm asking you now. Of
course, they knew. They dictated everything. You know?
And it was clear, you know, to them.
Yes.
And you weren't doing this of your free volition. That's
of
my
course,
point.
of course, they will know.
It's important to make that point.
They will know. At least from my disposition, they know. They knew.
So they released you on the street.
Honestly. So when my friend and the NG secretary came, they now released me to them. After my friend had signed and they had thumbprinted, they now said, okay, you can have him. Then it was at that point that they now returned my 2 phones, my glasses, the money they found in my pockets, and some other things, my ID cards and all that, my ATM cards and all that, now return everything to me.
Right on the street?
Yes. And then they immediately zoomed off.
Okay.
They zoomed off from the scene. Interesting.
Thank you so much for this narration. Yeah. And it's important, to hear directly from you what had happened to you.
Yes.
And I thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thank you.
And it's important, to commend the Minister for Information and also the National Security Advisor, and to also commend the Nigerian Guild of Editors, IPI, Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, Nigerian Union of Journalists, and all the media groups that rose to ask and demand for the release of Mr. Segun Olatunji. The only thing left to say is that this is not a good showcasing on behalf of the Nigerian military. What had happened to Mr. Segun Olatunji, it's important for the Chief of Defense Staff to conduct an investigation and ensure that this kind of harassment does not happen under a democratic government. It is bad for the military and it's not good for the president. And by all means, it's bad for our country. We cannot treat a journalist the way Mr. Olatunji has been treated. And that's the point that the Broadcasting Organization of Nigeria, the Nigerian Guild of Editors, IPI, and all the other groups have said that you cannot militarize the media space. If there was a problem with the story that was published, the right thing to do is to follow due process, civilian due process. But like we said, we thank those who stood up in government and ensured that Mr. Olatunji was released. And there you have it. Inside Sources will be right back. Welcome back to Inside Sources. Today we continue the conversation on the future of Nigeria. And like I said, we will be talking to new voices, especially in the polity. And today I have one of the leading young Nigerians in active politics, Adamu Garba too. Adamu Garba, you're welcome to Inside Sources.
Thank you very much. Mr.
As you will recollect, Adamu Garba ran for the presidency both in 2019 and 2023. And so he's going to be telling us about his own vision for the future of Nigeria. So I'd like to start this way, yes. Adamu, this is how I normally take it. If you look at where the country is today, right now, are we on course to that great Nigeria that many of us, I'm sure, including you, dream about?
Frankly speaking, when you look at all the indices, you find out that there are great challenges. Since 1999, when we started our democracy, when you look at the graph of poverty and also the graph of GDP, I think we started this democracy with about $160 billion of GDP. Now we are hitting $400 billion or sometimes even $450 billion. Yet the poverty graph keep rising because the population growth and also the rapid disconnect between the common man and the leadership system. So when you look at this, you see clearly that there is serious level of disconnect. The power is so centralized, and not just centralized, the economy is also so united around very few elites, at the detriment of the larger society. So with this, I think there is a widening gap of inequality between the leadership and the fellowship. And this does not show that we are actually doing the right thing. except maybe when you look at the new policies that the current government is coming on board with,
Right.
where you have so many social investment programs trying to listen to the poor, embolden the poor, empower the poor. So perhaps maybe this could now bring about a breakthrough that we are looking towards moving in that direction.
Okay.
So much left to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, so now you've opened it up in such a way that we can dig in deeper. So you talked about the gap of inequality. Now, so that is something that clearly is not difficult to. Is out there. There's a stark reality, for instance, of the level of poverty in our country. Stark. You don't have to work hard. You don't have to look too hard to see that there is so much poverty, and it's rising. So, what do you think, or what is your own? How do you think this can be addressed in a sustainable manner, so that over the years we can begin to reduce the poverty gap? I mean, you ran for president twice. That's why I'm audacious to ask you that what is your own vision just dealing with the poverty level in this country?
Yes, when you go back to the making of the country from the origin, it was a Royal Niger company. And from there, we now have several decrees, and it is an establishment of a group of organizations or people coming together to satisfy certain economic interests, not really political interests. The politics came as a harbinger to the making of the economy. So look at Nigeria as a business entity in itself and try to organize the entire social, political, and economic order in such a way that everybody became a function of production or consumption. But it was unfortunate, the country came in at the middle of the 20th century where production is what is in the high demand.
Right.
And now we have moved to the 21st century where like 50% of the population that we have in Nigeria today are born between 1999 to now, within this century, 50% of the population. So we have large amount of people that come in the world that is driven by consumption, by demand side of the economy, not the supply side. But unfortunately, we are still stuck with the thinking about the supply side. Until we build factories, until we create this and that, we can't be able to create jobs. And the world has moved far beyond that. Consumption is what determines how we define how those producers are going to produce. So why can't we use this sheer power of consumption? It's called power of monopsony, to define the people or the countries we need to relate with in kind of trade for exchange for substitution. Because when you look at the reason why we have this massive inequality, 99% of the issues has to do with the skills. Our HDI is very low. So the propensity to produce by an average person that is graduating from university is highly low. Our entire education system is wired to satisfy colonial interests of teaching people what to teach, not what to create. So it's very difficult for somebody to graduate from university and create something. Very, very difficult. So since we are defined as consumers, now we leverage on this our consumption power to define our economic growth. For instance, you may decide to say that we are importing rice from Thailand. Yes, stop this rice producing in Nigeria. Let's import from Thailand. Now, what will we negotiate from Thailand that Nigeria has in number that they must pick from Nigeria in exchange for exporting rice from Thailand? Then we look at the economics. It's importation of Thailand versus what we are supposed to exchange with Thailand and production of rice in Nigeria. Which one is going to give us the value? So we need to look at these things, the cars we import, the dairy products that we import, the clothes we wear, all those things we can define the geography, the domain of interest, negotiate with these countries, import in mass, enable our productivity, then we now exchange. Sometimes if you create massive opportunity for Italian shoes in Nigeria, you give Italian companies the incentive to come and invest the factories in Nigeria, thereby transferring skills in Nigeria because they don't want to lose Nigerian consumers. So I think that's the fundamental gap that we have. And if we shift towards the consumer side of the economy, I believe we create more jobs than when we stay with the production, since we have gap in infrastructure. And there is no way, based on what I see, there is no way we can raise $1.5 trillion to bridge this infrastructure gap that we think is happening from now to 2050. Is very, very difficult. And by 2050, we'll be 450 million people. So how do you expect to do that? Yes.
I find your ideas quite unique, I mean, so I like the idea that you have this kind of vision. Let's shift the argument then, or the discussion to so the relationship between the people and the government. Now, so I'll make my description, and then you just make your own comments on it. I think that part of the problem that we have in terms of government relationship is that there's a lot of insensitivity from the government side that the people perceive. For instance, people believe, and quite factual to a point, that there's a lot of wastage in government. The prices that government even pay, for the sums that they pay for goods and services, are normally very high. The lifestyle, the perks of office, the cars, the convoys, the fact that every year people hear 5 billion naira budget, just to feed and stuff like that. All of these create a picture of insensitivity that the people are seeing from the government side. And that itself has created a huge distance and a trust deficit. What do you think about that?
Just, you see, the issue is both ways. The leaders have their own very massive level of insensitivity by amassing, concentrating, and centralizing all the resources to themselves. Unfortunately, the poor man also have the same problem of insensitivity towards the person that is leading and did not come with convoys and mansions and dressing so grandeur. You will go to your electorate, after electoral cycle. If you don't spend much more than the next guy is spending, you won't come back. And
you have the experience. You've been there.
You
have the experience.
You understand? Again,
has that happened to you?
Of course, now, if you don't have what to say, you're out of life. So no matter what, people don't care about that. People, what they care about is almost everyone lives like Okada. So let me just get what to eat now and it's over. Once I carry my passenger and drop it, if I carry you, I just calculate. So that's the issue that we have. So you go to a common man and explain to him his problem, he will carry it in his head and see you as a problem solver. The next time that another guy will bring 5,000 naira, now he'll forget that issue. Go and do whatever he wants to do. Then later again, spend the next 4 years doing this. So it's two-way. You have so many people that are sitting in the National Assembly or in the government, they decide to do the right thing. When they go back home without money, they lose their election. You understand? So this is a problem. So it's a two-way issue.
It's a conundrum.
Exactly. So the society reflects what is happening at the center. Most of those politicians are survivalists. They want to go back and survive. They want to continue to be in the cycle. So for you to continue to be in the cycle, you must have excess money beyond your opponent. And that is what encourages the selling. If you look at our budget, it's just a procurement budget. Everything we procure. So the budget is ever spent so that people can get from the share of the spending. And at the end of the day, everybody corners it. When you look at what they do with what they corner, it's not more than how to sustain my status and my office. If you take away that thing from them, I'm telling you, most of them will not come back. And that's the problem that we have. So there must be complete social, change exactly of the entire system. And for us to socially re-engineer Nigeria, we have to go back to that history of the formation of the country. This is many countries in one. We must accept that. Now it is a federal republic. We can make it just a federation without necessarily federal republic, with decentralized power to component units as the way it used to be. Like I saw some arguments happening that we need to go back to regionalism, the regional system of government. It is not a bad deal. When some people are agitating that they want to have Republic of Biafra, it's not a bad deal to have Republic of Biafra, provided it's going to be within the Federal Republic of Nigeria or within the Nigerian Federation. We have several countries that have done that. Even in the US, it's like that. If you go to Vietnam,
maybe not the Republic, maybe,
Yes, yes, not the Republic.
Recognize the nationality.
Exactly. They will not have defense. They will not have national security. Their airports, seaports, and co is going to be controlled by the federation. By the federation. But at least let them have their president and their parliament to legislate according to their local laws and customs. If people come back from Arewa, they say they want Arewa, give them. If people come back from Yoruba Nation, they say they are doing, do referendum, give them. Now we have to allow political power to be based on the identities of the components unit in Nigeria, and then centralize economic power. Because it is only when you centralize economic power that you get things done faster, provided you have right implementation framework.
Yeah, I mean, before you go too far, centralizing economic power, you said a lot of things that I want to follow up, but centralizing economic power, what do you mean by centralizing economic power? Because I'll give you an example.
Yes.
Now, because some of the things that you said, you're tending towards the idea of restructuring the country, whatever it is. Okay. Now, one of the things that I find quite unbelievable, is that when you see the 1999 Constitution that's amended and you go to the exclusive list. So I live in Ibadan, where I was born, I went to school. And I'll just give you a scenario. I want to start a business in Ibadan. I can register a company the business in Ibadan. I have to come to Abuja. I can't even register a business name in Ibadan. I have to come to Abuja. That doesn't make sense. Is that what you mean by centralizing economic?
No.
Okay.
We look at our strategic assets. In Nigeria, we have some strategic assets. Maybe oil is one of the strategic assets. Then we look at the minerals, contemporary minerals. Yeah, we have some deposit of gold in Nigeria. We can look at that. But the largest strategic asset we have is the population. Now, how do we enable them? How do you connect them so that they can buy and sell to each other? How do we ensure that the problem we have today in Nigeria, where it's cheaper to import from China than to import from Kano to Lagos? It's cheaper to import the container goods from China than to pick from Kano to Lagos. It's cheaper to clear goods in ports in Shanghai than to clear goods in Nigerian ports.
I want to ask you, very good exchange, by the way. But last question now: youth involvement in politics or even civic affairs is very civic engagement is very low. It's very low in our country, and if you look at the population, you made a reference to it earlier. The fact that we have a lot of young people in our demography, probably depending on how you categorize the ages. Some people say it's over 60, at times even close to 70. But for the most part, they are not engaged. A lot of them are, of course, they are young people. People want to find out, hey, what's going to happen to my life? Let me go and sort out myself out, which makes sense. But my question to you is that, so what has to happen for us to get young people more involved, not just in politics, that's important, but even civic engagement beyond just the day of NSAS? That's when people come out. In your view, how do you think? I mean, if it's something that you've thought about, or if you have any thoughts around this, how do we get the critical mass of young people in this country to be engaged in civic affairs, or politics?
Yes, you see, the problem is I actually moved around this country when I was campaigning, especially 2019, even 2023, going to areas, different meetings, inviting to different conferences to make some speeches and engage these young people. You find out that there is this disincentive, for them to join the politics, because they see it as a strange environment that has some erected barriers, that before you can cross this barrier, maybe you might need to invest so much time, and they are more concerned about what they can get to continue to sustain their life than to try to invest in something that you have to spend a lot of effort to cross by. So they see it as a very big deal to join politics. And most of the times, immediately you join from your ward, you immediately become disincentivized, because if you look at the quality of the people that are living there, and when you sit in your weekly meetings or monthly meetings with the escorts, you find out that that's not why I want to belong. I want to be like Wizkid. Why do you expect me to come and sit down in the village and be having village meetings? So these are the issues. So we need massive awareness. As long as young people are not involved in civic affairs, political issues, I'm telling you, we will never get it right in this country. So what you are doing, for instance, with this program, Inside Sources, and so many of these kind of programs are actually what we need in Nigeria to enlighten the young people to understand that the future is actually defined by politicians. And if you are not part of the politicians, then you are not part of the decision making in your future. And whatever happens to you in the future, you hold yourself accountable.
Thank you very much. Are you going to run again?
Yes, I think I will run again in 2031.
Okay.
Yes, I will want Asiwaju to lead Nigeria for 8 years. The steps he took, we need to give him 8 years to stabilize our country.
Thank you so much, Mr. Adamu Garba, the second, for your contribution, for coming to Inside Sources, and I like your insight. They are quite brilliant.
Thank you very much for having me. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you, viewers. That is another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, hashtag Nigeria will prevail. We believe it. And that's why we are here. That's why we are pressing the issues, because Nigeria will prevail. See you next week. My name is Laolu Akonde.